very excited about our next cat, Drew.
Me too.
This cat is one of the great photographers in rock history. And he didn't start off that way. You know, he's a member of the Modern Folk Quartet, and which became Quintet at some point. And they were just a very cool part of the folk rock scene. You know, like Love Spoonful and part of that scene, the Byrds and Mamas and Papas. And but Phil Spector produced them, which is an unusual combination, you know.
Yeah, it is.
But he would go on to be the official photographer at both Monterey and Woodstock, which is incredible, you know, alone. Theme song. Let's play a little bit of the theme song, and then we're gonna bring on the great Henry Diltz. Hey Henry, how you doing?
Hey. Nice.
I love that song, Henry.
Yeah, me too. Harry Nilsson wrote that song.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Man, his name pops up in a lot of ways like that, doesn't it? Harry Nilsson.
We were Phil Spector's folk rock experiment.
And a successful experiment.
Yeah. I mean, we spent a whole summer going up to his house and sitting around the piano. He'd say, you sing this, playing he would play his 12-string with us. And then we would, at night, we'd go play the Trip on Sunset Strip, and he would come in and play There Is a Rose in Spanish Harlem. He'd play his 12-string, and we would do the oohs and the ahs.
Wow, he would sing, he sang it?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, you know, he didn't exactly produce it in a folk rock. It was an advanced folk rock style.
Right, yeah. It was the wall of sound, but I had my 5-string banjo in there too.
Wall of banjos. A wall of folks going on there.
What's wrong with a wall of banjos, everybody?
Yeah. Too many banjos.
That was great though, man. So you just kind of started taking pictures for the hell of it, right?
On the road, singing folk music, doing college concerts and folk clubs back and forth across the country. We went into a little secondhand shop one day, and there was a table full of little cameras, $20. And one of the guys in the group said, "Oh, a camera, I'll have one." And without even thinking, I said, "Yeah, me too." Never, you know. And then we put film in there. We took pictures for a few weeks, and when we got the film developed, it was slide film. I had no idea what it was. I never thought about it. I was just framing up my friends and framing up stuff on the road. So we had a big slideshow, and that's what blew my mind. When I saw that first picture, 8 feet wide, glowing in the dark, you know, with all our hippie friends watching. Wow. I said, this is magic. I'm going to do more of this. And I would spend all my days in Laurel Canyon photographing my friends, so that on the weekend we could have a slideshow and I could show them pictures of themselves and segued into it. You know,
I love how intimate. Like, one of the great things about your photographs to me is how intimate they are. Is you could tell that you're like a friend of the band, or you have their trust, or whoever's picture you take, because you catch them at a lot of intimate moments. And I know that as a photographer, anybody that's been photographed, you really have to have a lot of trust there and kind of ingratiate yourself so they kind of forget about you or something like that, or let their guard down so you can catch those moments. Was it because you were a musician in the first place that let you get in with them? Or?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I knew all these people from on the road. I mean, David Crosby, Graham Nash, Stephen Stills, Mama Cass, all these people I met on the road as a fellow musician. So when I was hanging out with them, they didn't see me as a photographer. And also, a lot of the time, I wasn't on assignment. You know, I wasn't, okay, I'm here, let's get this picture. I was just there for the afternoon hanging out and just, you know, taking little candid random photos when nobody really noticed. You know, and secondly, I'm fascinated by people, not just musicians. I mean, I studied psychology in college. simply because I was interested in people. What is this? How do we do this? Who are we? And so that same fascination went into the photography, being able to be a fly on the wall, as they say, and just watch people. That's kind of what I do. I'm an observer, I document. They say, oh, this is a great shot. We could use this for publicity, show it to our manager. And then it got to be album covers. And then I teamed up with a really cool guy named Gary Burden, who was a friend of Mama Cass's. And he was an architect helping her remodel her house. And Mama Cass said, Gary, I want you to do my first solo album cover. And he said, well, Cass, I'm an architect. I'm not a graphic artist. And she said, well, you make a blueprint, you make an album cover. What's the difference? And so he said, oh, okay. And then right after that, he saw me at a Love-In taking photos, one Sunday afternoon in Griffith Park. And he said, hey, you want to help me do an album cover? And I did. And we did 200 album covers together.
Can you explain really quickly, since you were at one, to any young people watching, what a Love-In was?
A Love-In was like, it was like on a Sunday afternoon, and the word would get around. Hey, we're all going to meet like at noon at Griffith Park, over by the merry-go-round or wherever it was. Elysian Park was another place. And all the hippies would, all the musicians and friends, and I call them hippies. I mean, that's what we all were. And we'd all go there and just have a lovely afternoon. Kind of people would spread out blankets, bring the kids. People would have, some musicians would bring their guitars. There'd be music and just a hangout.
Just a chill hang, right?
Yeah.
I consider you a photojournalist as well as just a regular portrait photographer, just because you get candid moments and you're following people around. So you have a lot of that in your work. And you really have this gift of like catching that perfect moment. You have so many good unposed looking posed pictures.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. I have a framing Jones, is what a friend of mine told me once. You have a framing Jones. I like to frame, That was just the wonderful thing about picking up a camera. Oh wow, you can look at little slices of life. You can aim it where you want. You can aim it at a group of friends, and you can wait for just that moment where they all laugh and you go click and you got that,
Yeah, you got that down.
I know that it's up to me to pick that moment when I push the button. And I do tend to wait until they really look good, or there's a moment, there's some energy. I watch, and then when it kind of happens, I take the picture. Sure, digital now is a whole new world, And I said, 15 years ago, I said, I will never go digital.
One of those guys.
I am a film guy, And then I picked up, I was using Nikon cameras, and 35 millimeter little spools of film. And I picked up a friend of mine's Canon, a big telephoto lens. And I looked through it. I said, oh my God, this focuses itself. And it sets its own light reading. I always had a light meter, a spot meter to, take a reading. I said, this is amazing. I mean, you don't even have to be there to take the picture almost. And so I got into digital because it was just kind of easier and quicker. There's a lot of advantages to it.
Let's look at some cool stuff. Let's look at the Doors stuff first.
Look at that great picture.
That's an album cover right there.
Yeah, look how great it is. A frame and a frame and a frame.
We went down to this old derelict, funky hotel that Ray Manzarek had seen. And we went down there and I told the guy behind the desk, we're just going to come in the lobby and take some photos. And he said, no, you can't take any photos. A slumlord owned that hotel. And everybody was scared to death of this guy. And you can't without the owner's permission. So we went outside and we were standing. I said, well, we can do it in front of the window. They can't stop us because we're outside on the sidewalk. And we were just doing that. And I looked through the window. I saw a light go on. And I looked in and I said, hey, that's the elevator light. The guy left the desk. You see the elevator light right in the middle of the picture there? Right. The guy behind the desk left and the lobby was empty. And I said, quick, run in there, you guys. And I first started taking right where that passenger loading sign is. I was right close up, kind of looking sideways down the window. And my partner, Gary Burden, said, no, back up, get the whole window. And I backed up all the way across the street and to get that whole window framed like that, because
even the street lamp on the right is giving you a little bit of a frame too. It's such a great picture.
And that little the car light on the left side.
Yeah. And was Jim Morrison wearing a jacket or just that white shirt?
No, just a white shirt.
Because that's amazing too. That you get that. It's almost like that somebody styled it and had the lead singer in white to make him pop.
Yeah, and said, okay, you go there and put your hands up like this, and you go there, and Robby, you stand in the back. No, they ran in there and hit those spots. No one said a word.
Man.
Yeah, and
nowadays that would have taken an hour to put that picture together.
Yeah, right. It took us 5 minutes. We walked outside, and Jim said, well, let's go get a drink. It was about 4:00 in the afternoon.
Sure.
We climbed into their Volkswagen van and drove a few blocks to Skid Row, where it was all bars and pawn shops, and we didn't know where to stop. And then someone looked out the windshield and said, look, on the next corner, it says Hard Rock Cafe. We said, in fact, this I learned later that this little bar had been there since the 30s. So hard rock meant mining or rock in a hard place or something. And, when their Morrison Hotel album came out, there was a picture of this on the back. And they got a call from London one day, and the voice said, we're starting a cafe here in London. Would you mind if we use that name? And they said, no, go ahead. So in that one day, we did the Morrison Hotel, which years later I've started a gallery, a music photo gallery with a bunch of friends. And we accidentally named it the Morrison Hotel Gallery. So we discovered the Morrison Hotel Gallery and the Hard Rock Cafe, sort of two empires, within a span of a couple of hours. And this is a shot in the Hard Rock Cafe with Jim sort of pinning me from the other side of the bar.
What time of year was that? Because it says Happy New Year on the sign.
Yeah, it was like December 17th, something like that.
Wow.
1969, yeah.
Wow.
But, you got that from Jim a lot. Jim was, people think he was kind of a wild man. He was very quiet, he just liked to observe. He was a real observer because he was a poet, He liked to just watch what was going on. In this bar, he would buy beer for some of the old guys in there, the old winos, because he wanted to hear their stories. They'd say, I ran away from home, joined the Merchant Marines when I was 16. And he'd just sit there listening to that. You could see, poems going in his head,
How did you get the light in there with all the backlight in there? How did you get the light in there? Where's that coming from? Another window off to the side or something?
I think one of my millennials.
All natural light you use, right? All the time?
I didn't use any light. I always use natural light. God's light, as I say. There was a little bit of light, and actually somebody did lighten that a little bit. Originally, it was a bit darker.
There's another album cover, huh? The Crosby, Stills, and Nash?
Yes, yeah, that was another.
Let's see that one.
Granddaddy album cover that day. Wow.
This natural light, too?
Natural light, yep.
That's insane.
Right off of Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood. And, these guys were doing their first album. And I'd known all of these guys for a few years before this. And me and Gary knew them. And they were recording, but they had no photo, to put in the trade magazines or the newspaper. Nothing to announce that they were recording together. So we said, well, let's go out and we'll just take some random shots. We were looking for an album cover at this point. We were just trying to take publicity shots. But we found this little funky house and we found that couch and they jumped on there. We took a bunch of shots. And once again, Gary, so I took this shot right up close, framing it, right? I had to frame it just right. And then Gary said, no, back up, get the whole house. So once again, I backed up all the way across the street and we took that picture. And then, so it was a wraparound album. But the story goes that we looked at these pictures a few days later and they said, that's a pretty good shot. That could be our album cover, except we're sitting backwards because now we're going to name ourselves Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And that's Nash, Stills, and Crosby. And there was some talk about flipping the picture over, but then Stephen would be playing backwards, So I said, well, let's just go back. A couple days later, let's just go back to the house. You jump on the couch, bang, bang, bang. I mean, 5 minutes, we'll get it the right way. We all got in the car, drove back, and the house was gone. There was no house. It had been bulldozed all the way in a parking lot. Yeah.
It kind of looks like a place that's getting ready to get bulldozed.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. That's a funny story.
All natural light, crazy man. Do you have a favorite time of day since you use all natural light?
Oh yeah, magic hour always. You know. So yeah, I mean 4, 5, 6 o'clock these days, 7 o'clock when it's soft.
Not the morning with a rock and roll.
No. I don't get up till noon. You know?
The next day.
I go to bed at 4 and I get up at noon. That's it.
We got one more picture. Let's show it because it's a cool picture.
Yeah, this is a Laurel Canyon picture up at Mama Cass's house. And Mama Cass isn't in it, but she would always meet these English groups on TV shows when she was on there with the Mamas and Papas. And so one day in Hollywood, she met Cream, and she met Eric Clapton, and he was very shy, and he didn't know anybody in town. And she said, well, come up to my house tomorrow. I'll have some friends over. We'll have a little barbecue. And so she invited David Crosby there in the back, and he brought his newly discovered protege, Joni Mitchell. And she sat there and played her whole first album. Before they were in the midst of recording it, so no one had heard any of these songs. And Eric Clapton is sitting there, and he stared at her the whole, 40 minutes. He just staring at her because you see, she's got her fingers right across the fretboard. She tuned her guitar, and then she didn't play chords. She just laid her finger straight across. And the great blues player had never seen that before. He was gobsmacked, as they say, And then in the foreground is Mama Cass's daughter, Owen, chewing on one of my Kodak film cans.
Wow.
Amazing shot.
That was
really.
a great day. Yeah.
Man.
So I would highly recommend the documentary. Is it just called Laurel Canyon, Henry? What's it called?
Right. Laurel Canyon. It's a two-part.
It's just called Laurel Canyon. Yeah, it's a great documentary, and Henry's featured in it, and a lot of these pictures, and it's great. It's a great documentary.
Amazing.
Anyway, really great to see you. Great to meet you, Henry. And
thanks, Steve.
Hopefully we'll all be able to get a drink at Morrison Hotel.
Yeah. When the bugs go away, right?
Or the Hard Rock Cafe, I should say. Yeah. When the bugs go away. Yeah.
Right. Okay, we'll do that one day.
Cool, man.
Cool.
All right.
Good talking to you guys.
Pleasure.